Good morning and welcome to the Waking Up with Don show. I'll be your host today, Kristen Gramazio, and today we have Amy Pollock here with us, and she's with FSU, the autism director, correct?
Yes.
So can you tell the audience of what exactly is autism? Some people might not know what autism is.
Sure. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder, and we're hearing more about it these days. And so what the main characteristics are of this disorder are delays in language and communication, engagement in repetitive behaviors and restricted interests, and also delays in social interaction and things, kind of quirky social behaviors and lack of eye gaze, things where I feel like children on the spectrum sometimes just don't really want to be around other people. So that's one of the things that you can kind of pick up with the disorder.
In what age does this normally start to become, you start noticing it more?
That's a really good question. And the research is showing that the average age of diagnosis used to be around 5, like 10 to 20 years ago. And now with better early intervention, better services, better recognition of the disorder, we're finding that the average age of diagnosis is 2, and that's fantastic.
Wow. Yeah.
And some studies show that you can look for symptoms of autism as early as 6 to 9 months. Now, it's most salient around age 2 because one of the more common ways to recognize warning signs is lack of language, which typically happens around 18 to 24 months, where parents might be more astute to look for that. But parents can look for other things even earlier than that, such as eye gaze. If I look this way, you'll tend to follow my gaze. That's called joint attention, and children on the spectrum can have more nonverbal social delays and things like that that parents can look for.
So the signs are, when you was talking about the gazing, it's if they're following your gaze, and if they're not being as interactive with kids, those are other signs as well?
Absolutely, and it's one of those things that I think we tend to underestimate the power of nonverbal communication. And so kids on the spectrum and with warning signs of autism will tend to not engage in those kind of nonverbal social interactions, like how we're talking and having eye gaze and looking at each other. Children may be looking away and not having eye contact with their parents. They may not move or recognize their name. So one of the common misdiagnoses of autism is to be hearing impaired.
Okay.
Where children with hearing impairments will tend to compensate with some sort of nonverbal communication or some other kinds of ways to communicate, whereas kids on the spectrum would not.
Now, are we seeing a rise in the community of autism?
We are, and we're seeing a rise in numbers of autism nationwide. And so the recent statistics from our Centers for Disease Control are that 1 in 68 children in our country are diagnosed with autism.
Wow.
Now, if we took those numbers to Bay County's recent census population, that means about 550 local kids could be affected with the disorder. And so that's a really prominent issue that our community faces. And another really interesting phenomenon that's happening in our community that we're finding in our program at FSU is that more military families are migrating to this area, requesting our local military bases so that they can gain access to autism services, because programs as special as FSU ECAP are not everywhere. And so not all communities have access to what we do as applied behavior analysis therapy. And the research shows that it is medically necessary for kids on the spectrum. And what I mean by that is medical officials now recognize that early intervention using applied behavior analysis, which what we do is we work one-on-one with children. Every child that comes through our doors at FSU gets an individualized assessment, and it's one-on-one teaching. And we work on language, communication, academic skills, daily living skills, potty training, a slew of things. And it's basically any behavior a child needs to learn, we can work with them one-on-one and teach those skills.
Wow, that's great. I want to continue more on this, and we'll do that when we get back from our local weather. Welcome back. And again, we're here with Amy Pollock, and we're talking about autism. And April is Autism Awareness Month. Can you tell me what you're doing in the community for this?
Excellent. I would love to. And I'm so excited to be here on the show to tell you about it and to spread the awareness about the things that we are doing. We recently started a partnership with the Bay Health Foundation and received a grant for $30,000, and we will be establishing a parent resource center at ECAP, so parents that have questions about delays and disabilities, they can come to FSU and have a one-stop shop for that. So
Wow.
we're really grateful
That's awesome.
for that. We have a campaign going because there is more autism in our community. We have waiting lists and we need to expand and raise more funds to be able to increase our space and take more children into our program, and we're very grateful for their help with that. Another piece of our pie and at FSU is we have a great partnership with the George A. Butchkiss Foundation for Autism.
Yeah.
And they established a scholarship program with us in 2001, and monies that go to that scholarship pay for children's therapies that are uninsured or are unable to pay for their therapy. And because it is medically necessary, this is incredibly important.
Absolutely.
So with Autism Awareness Month, we're kicking off a lot of awareness from FSU about autism, and we are also holding our 5th annual auction for autism awareness at FSU ECAP. And so if you've seen these flyers around the community, we're so excited that this is our 5th year, and our community has been incredibly supportive. And so the event is on April 10th. General admission is $25 at the door. It does include food and beverage, and we have a Chinese auction, which is a raffle type auction, as well as silent auction. We're seeking donations from the community for the auction. We also have sponsorships available as low as $50. It's a really great way to raise money for a really good cause.
Great cause.
And it's to help with the Butchkiss Scholarship Program, and it's so important to get the children in this community the services they need, because early intervention now will help them throughout their lives.
And that's the most important thing, is the early intervention.
Yes.
And so for this cause, it's a great cause, a great thing to get out, go check it out, and just donate. There's nothing better you can do, right? And it's helping others. So
it is.
Anything else that you feel that people should know about the autism that they might not understand or know about it?
If they have questions, they can call our program. Our number is 850-770-2241. Once we have the Parent Resource Center, that will be established later this year. We're working on it now. As soon as we get the ribbon cutting and have the center open for people, they can have a one-stop shop at FSU to get the resources that they need, and we're very excited to help the community.
That is awesome. It's a big thing for the community.
It is.
So, yeah, absolutely. I would say check out that auction.
Yes, please.
The annual auction for the Autism Awareness Month. All of April is the Autism Awareness Month. What are things that other people can do for those that they might, know of autism in other people's families? What can they do to help?
They can come to FSU and talk with us. We'll have knowledge of other events going on in the community. And with our event, also the Butchkiss Foundation for Autism will be holding an event later in April. So just pay attention to the news and pay attention to different events that will be popping up in the community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'm really excited to, check this out. And anybody that has any questions, they can just contact you again at the phone number that you mentioned. And thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we'll be back with these messages.
Welcome back to Time to Hack Tuesdays. So one hack that I want to show you today, since I am traveling back to Boston, is how to hack while you pack. Now, I personally like to carry a carry-on when I travel because some airports, they're really busy, and to get your luggage after your flight can take some time. So I prefer to pack a carry-on. Now, carry-ons are not that big, and leaving for a week, you may have a lot of clothes to pack. One trick that you can use is the rolling method. Rather than folding them as you would normally a pair of pants or your shirts, what you're going to do is roll them. So you're going to lay them out and line up the legs of your pants and roll them tight. Just roll them all the way up to the top. This also helps prevent wrinkling, where a lot of times if you pull out your clothes out of your suitcase, you will see wrinkles. This will help prevent that. And then you're just going to tuck it away inside your suitcase, snug to the side. You're going to do that with all your pants. Now your shirts, you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to fold them up, lay them out flat, and you're going to start on one end and roll. Make sure that it's nice and tight, and then stick them in your bag. This will allow you a lot more room while packing. Another trick I like to use, if you don't have those space bags, is using plastic bags. And you want to get the airtight sealing ones. You're going to stick I like to stick any of my blouses in there because they're nice and flat. And I fold them in there, and you're gonna roll out the air. Rolling out the air will make it nice, flat, and compact and allow you more storage space. So using these few little tips, you can hack while you pack and be able to pack a lot more in a carry-on. Now, the next hack that I want to show you is something that a lot of people traveling in the airport as well bring with them, and that is their computer. A lot of people having that extra bag to carry your computer is going to push you over the limit for the amount of bags that you can bring when you have a carry-on. So you're only allowed 2. So if you have your purse and your carry-on, if your computer doesn't fit, you might think you're out of luck. But in reality, there's a little trick. What you're going to do is most of the time when you travel, you do bring a sweater of some sort because the airplane can get a little chilly. I like to use my sweater as my carrier for my computer. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your computer, lay it on the center of your sweater, and you want it to be a hoodie sweater. And so what you're going to do is you're going to fold it over so that way you're covering over the top of the laptop. You're going to take your hood and you're going to wrap it around the laptop. So now it is tight and secure. You can take the strings from your hoodie and you're going to tie them tight. Put it in bunny ears. And then you're going to take the sleeves and you're going to tie those and twist them around. And this now allows you to carry your laptop on your shoulder. You have your sweater for when it's cold on the plane, and you don't have to worry about bringing a bag for your computer. So this is a hack I like to use when I'm traveling on a plane with my laptop. Adds a little bit of cushion to secure it as well. And finally, if you're at an airport in between flights and your phone is about to die, a quick way to charge it during your layover is by putting your phone on airplane mode. By putting it on airplane mode, your phone will charge twice as fast and you'll be ready to go once you get off that plane. So thank you for joining me this week on Time Tech Tuesdays, and I'll see you next week.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Stephen Favaloro from Forest Park Animal Hospital, and it's that time of year. The snakes are out.
Watch out.
Aren't they?
Yes, sir.
I know my wife is like snakeophobic.
And you live like on a nice pond.
Oh, yeah,
like
we
good
live by a
body
lake,
water.
the slithering things all over the place, but that has an impact on our pets.
Well, I remember you told me a story that when you first moved in, that you went on the
This
back
giant
door.
rat snake on the back porch.
Well, that's a good snake, though.
Apparently, but you know, if his name is Snake, it's a bad snake in my book.
Well, and a lot of people think that way. And we
Yeah.
probably shouldn't, because there's really only 6 poisonous snakes that we ever really commonly see in Florida. There's like, depending on what website you read, like about 50 species. So you take those 6 out, 44 are actually pretty cool, you know. And they, you know, those snakes help keep rats population down, and you know they actually
Rodents
keep
and-
other snakes away. So being able to know and identify, not that this is going to be an identification session, but you know, to know that there's 6 there. You know,
I know there's some little
the other ones
rhymes
are
and
cool.
things like red and black, friend of Jack,
Yeah,
or
and so
something like that.
yeah, and that one mainly applies to the coral snake. You know,
Yeah.
but in that one
we have those here too.
we
don't
do have those here. Mainly like so. The 4 that we commonly see mainly in Central Florida, which doesn't really apply to the Panhandle, which are also here as well. You know, you get the Eastern Diamondback, which is the biggest snake, poisonous snake here. And I should say poisonous. That's actually wrong. Venomous. You know, and you know they can get to be 96 inches long. Wow, that's pretty big. Then you know they're relatively aggressive. You know, and they usually they have the rattles and they'll usually warn you, but you know. Those are bad. You got they call them either timber or canebrake. You got the pygmy rattlers, which by far make up the most snake bites that I see with pets
Pygmy
that come
rattlers,
through.
yeah.
Absolutely. And then the cottonmouths. You know, you see which people call water moccasins as well. And then more in the Panhandle, you got the copperheads, which oftentimes get confused for water moccasins, and then the coral snakes. So the importance of that is like people will bring their dogs to a lake or their farm and whatnot, and knowing what these snakes look like and where they like to habitat are important, because that can kind of help you not put them in positions to
Yeah.
get bit. And of course, you can't ever know where they are exactly, but it's important to know if your dog does get bit. If you can identify if it's a.
I mean, if you live in the
not.
country like I do, and your dog, well, we walk the dog on a leash. We never let her run. Occasionally, we'll let her out in the yard. But dogs will sniff anything.
Absolutely, and if they see something, if they're curious, and not necessarily, got good instincts, which we've pretty much bred most of that out of them. They'll go right up to it, or they'll play with it. Or you got some that'll just go outright. I've had this one guy with this couple that his dog killed 3 snakes. I was like, one day it's not going to win, one day it didn't.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and usually they'll get struck around the face. That's the most common place, or the leg. So, and usually, people will say, I think my dog got bit by a snake. So, well, you'll know because that venom will cause a huge anaphylactic reaction, and you'll get a tremendous amount of swelling, and it's usually pretty quick. And depending on what type of snake bit, how many times it bit, how threatened it felt.
I guess a snake can bite you more than once.
Absolutely, and a lot of times it's a warning bite, or it's a check bite where they don't release a whole lot of venom on that first time.
They just kind of tap you to ward you off.
But if they are threatened and they know that it's me or you,
and they'll sink their fangs in.
Oh yeah, they'll get you good. And
what do you do for a dog that's been bitten?
Well, first thing you do is immediately find medical help. Most snake bites, if it's not a huge amount of venom, we can usually get along with just fluid therapy, antihistamines, antibiotics. If they're real painful, or if they're real sick, or if they're not getting better, if we get them pretty quickly, then you can do antivenom to help counter the effects.
Is that readily available, antivenom?
It depends. I mean, because it's pretty expensive. I mean, it's like $400 or $500 a vial.
Wow.
And depending on how they respond or how big, you may have to use multiple vials. So most of the time you don't need it. Most emergency clinics will have a couple vials on hand. But as long as they don't go into DIC, which is a bad condition that is sometimes reversible, sometimes not, they usually will be okay. But a lot of people like, well, put a tourniquet on it. Nah, that's not really a good idea. Cut an X in it and suck out the venom. Yeah, not a good idea. I've heard things. I've heard people take car batteries and electric shock because it it does something to the venom to deactivate it. It's like, I don't think
that's silly.
Your dog's like.
So all you really have to do is just call Forest Park Animal Hospital. Hello?
Call your regular veterinarian, or if it's the weekend, the emergency service, and get them taken care of, get them treated, and be aware of what the 6 types of venomous snakes are. And you can go on any Florida website, and there's pictures
just Google
of them.
Up Florida venomous snakes,
Absolutely.
and you got it right there.
Absolutely.
Dr. Stephen Favaloro, we're so out of time, it's not funny. Always fascinating conversation, though.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
All right.
And be careful with your pets. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Joseph Milliron and his friend Haley from Bay County Animal Services. Welcome back to the show, Joe.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah, good to see you. And Haley here looks like a young guy. Haley is a boy's name. Very affectionate dog. Real active, and looks kind of young too. Kind of has some puppy traits still.
He's about a year old or so. He's a bulldog mix. Came to us as a stray. Actually, he just walked up to some citizen, and they brought him in. He's very friendly.
Yeah, he is.
Loves to play.
Yeah, so he was just kind of a stray running around out there, and just seems like a great dog. Do you have any sense of how old he is, or?
I think he's about a year, maybe a year and a half. He's not going to get much bigger. He might be mixed with something, because bulldogs are typically a little bit larger.
Yeah, I mean he looks like a very bright dog. He's very fit. He seems like a real athlete here, because he's just a few minutes ago he was running around and getting acquainted with all his surroundings. Yeah.
He's a very curious dog, very attentive.
So he's some sort of pit mix, but we're not quite sure what he is.
I don't know what he might be mixed with. Definitely majority bulldog. I mean, you can tell by his face and his body structure.
Sure. And just a great little guy. So if somebody wants to adopt Haley, this lovable dog, what do they need to do?
Just come on down to the shelter. There's a $25 fee and a few paperworks to fill out, and he can go. He's all ready to go.
So $25, you take him home, and of course, like all the animals at Bay County Animal Services, he's had his shots, he's got a chip, he's been neutered. Yep. I mean, he's ready to go. Sorry about the neutering thing, Haley, but you know, we got to do it. It's so important.
He's better off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that $25 includes everything.
Yeah, it really does. Now, how many dogs do you have there now? Do you have a rough idea how many strays you guys take in?
At any given time, we usually have around 50 dogs.
Wow.
Yeah, we have a lot of dogs at our facility and a lot of cats as well.
Yeah, so yeah, dogs and cats primarily. I guess you get other things as well.
Every once in a while, we'll get a rabbit, something like that. But
yeah.
Mostly dogs and cats, yep.
Mostly dogs and cats. And if somebody wants to look at the dogs that you have there ready for adoption, we'll go out to your website, right?
Mm-hmm. That's baycountyfl.gov. And we have pictures of all of our dogs, as well as a brief description, the breed and the age, things like that.
And you'll certainly see Haley out there as well.
He'll be there at least for a little while, hopefully not too long.
Okay. And if we want to just give a call, the number there is what?
767-3333.
767-3333 if you want to adopt Haley here.